The Christmas season is here, and every year around the holidays, themed media is produced. From shows, movies, comics, and holiday specials are a thing. This Christmas, my gift for you is telling you about a random Christmas themed comic book issue of Spider-Man and Deadpool, where this iconic comic book duo go on their grand best friend adventure to save Christmas. This story is a bit on the shorter side because I want to more talk about the characters themselves during this time than anything else, and this is just an excuse to do so. Spoilers, obviously. Spider-Man and Deadpool. It's been an ongoing gag in which Deadpool kinda looks like Spider-Man.
Nice to see you kept my color scheme when you copied my suit. Am I like your idol? Never heard of you. You call me cold, you're a Deathstroke ripoff. You stole Spider-Man's eyes and Snake Eyes exploited. You got Wolverine's powers, made your comics floppy second.
Whenever Deadpool needs to be humbled, people often mistake him for Spider-Man. It's also a relationship that makes sense. Both talk and talk and talk. Deadpool does what he does for money, and Spider-Man does what he does because it's the right thing to do. Spider-Man started off as a teenager growing up. Deadpool was an edgy villain turned into a goofy man-child. One was a major icon for the company, and the other one was niche enough that they were allowed to have a whole character revamp and become self-aware. It's a fun dichotomy between these two that holds a lot of potential. People always enjoyed them working together, so why not make an entire comic run about the two? And in 2016, that was done. This was a very unique year for the two. I'll go into more detail after I talk about the comic itself, but right now let me give you a quick debriefing. Currently, Spider-Man was as popular as ever. MCU just got him back for Civil War, and he was debuting his own standalone movie in a year's time. But in the comics, Spider-Man has gone through a few changes. Most people see Spider-Man as a teen superhero from shows and movies, but for a good few decades now, in the comics, old Peter Parker had graduated from university and was a full-fledged responsible adult. Well, sort of. He's had great runs, tragic retcons, we don't talk about One More Day and all the terrible things that occurred because of it, and around this time, Miles Morales debuted to take the role of plucky teen, and Spider-Man had a fun run as Superior Spider-Man, where Doc Ock took over Peter's body and became Spider-Man. It's a long story, I might talk about it later, but thanks to Ock's megalomaniac personality, he took to capitalism and became a rich dude with a big brain, and when Peter Parker finally got his body back, he inherited a lot of money. So now he was a rich superhero. Deadpool, all the while, had some popular runs that turned him from an anti-hero to full-fledged, messed up good guy, and of course, his blockbuster success that happened mere months ago before this comic's creation, and also, he got married. So why not join the two into a monthly comic series that for a while was part of the main Marvel continuity before production times and weird events changed and messed it up. That's me just making things more confusing than need be. Back to the main point. Eventually this comic run ran through the holiday seasons, and to fit tradition, they made a story based off the Christmas spirit. So let's read. First we see that it's Christmas Eve and a Salvation worker is packing it in for the night when a large, muscular, shirtless, bearded man decapitates him. Then we cut to a party of superheroes. Deadpool at this point was now an official Avenger, something that he's had wanted for several decades now. Now as part of the annual Avengers Christmas party. Of course, he gets himself kicked out due to a bad joke. Now, this comic is set around the year where Civil War II came along, and it was, for the most part, pretty big disaster. Civil War I in the comics was already controversial enough, as the event messed with many beloved characters, but did create some nice moments and a little bit of money, probably not as much as it lost though. But it was popular enough for Kevin Feige to want to adapt into a movie, and because the movies were very popular, the comics wanted to adapt that. So Civil War II was created to make some money. And again, as I said before, mostly caused more harm than good. The storyline was pretty weak, and as Marvel's main comic event of the time, it was also the most people's main look at certain characters like Captain Marvel, who while had some fun individual solo runs, was not written very well, as she was the cause of most of the problems that occurred in Civil War II, whether directly or indirectly. One of the infamous events was when Bruce Banner was cornered by the Avengers and nearly turned into the Hulk, ready to go on a rampage. But before his transformation completes, Hawkeye, Barton, shoots him with a special arrow, killing him. Deadpool then gives the wrong Hawkeye the Christmas sweater, and is subsequently kicked out of the party for it. There, Deadpool then wanders the streets to see Spider-Man, who never got an invitation. Meanwhile, Buff Santa is decapitating a lot of people, murdering everyone who even mentions Christmas. Spider-Man and Deadpool then bond before all of a sudden a flaming carriage rolls by and a pretty decent Civil War joke is made. And then we cut to a comical amount of death and destruction that occurred in what feels like only mere minutes. Also, with a load of superheroes nearby, it feels like someone would have discovered this first, but if they did, this wouldn't be a Spider-Man and Deadpool issue now, would it? The adult movie Santa destroys more Christmas decorations as Deadpool saves black baby Jesus. Then the two joke of who this bearded man looks like, as the bearded man mistakes them for Christmas warriors due to the both of them wearing red. As the duo battle the evil Santa, Captain America, who at this point was a secret Hydra agent that wasn't revealed quite yet, was happily playing with an old-fashioned vacuum. Also, it's funny that only one of the Spider-Men were invited to the party. Having had enough with the mistaken identity, the villain reveals himself not to be evil Santa, but Saturn, the Romanized name for the ancient Greek titan of time. Santa Claus stole his holiday and turned it into a holiday of cheer for kids. It should be for booze, gambling, and promiscuity. He then grows John's side, but the duo are able to convince him that Christmas was a lot more naughty than he realized. But he's still not convinced that it's better than his holiday, thus a challenge is set. Prove it. They drink, skate. Deadpool with his Canadian powers is a pro at ice skating. Spider-Man drinks Deadpool's energy drink, which makes him really high and caffeinated. They line dance, go gambling, as Peter really enjoys his trip, maybe too much. And Saturn loses a finger, no questions. Satisfied with his Christmas fun, Saturn then leaves Earth, now alone and Spider-Man no longer on the drugs. Deadpool loved how he spent his time with his best friend of the world, while Spider-Man is adamant that they aren't really friends. This is an ongoing joke where Deadpool absolutely loves Spider-Man, perhaps even romantically. No, definitely romantically. While Spider-Man wants none of it, but like any good tsundere, secretly loves him back briefly. Then hand each other gifts and surprise. They mind meld and give each other matching sweaters. Go on to bust the villain gambling den they parted in earlier. Nice. Once back in the parties, Captain America's still waffling about all the uses of his antique vacuum cleaner. This was a sleek comic that took a break from the usual adventures that Deadpool and Spider-Man often went through, and acted as a refreshing experience, as this was also in the middle of Civil War II, as opposing forces were actually able to not bicker against one another and have fun in a party. And making fun of the stupid death of Bruce is fun. At least Bruce Banner does come back later on and have a very fun run. To be perfectly honest, the Spider-Man and Deadpool comics have much more entertaining stories and issues than this, but they weren't Christmas related, so they didn't feel appropriate to review. Also, I do like finding standalone comics like this and using it to compare to the state of the characters of the time, because not only were characters having civil wars, but they were also getting new revamps. As mentioned before, Captain America got briefly turned into Hydra Cap, but more importantly on the two characters I've been focusing on, Wade Wilson obviously got more popular thanks to a new movie, and the MCU finally got back Spider-Man after several years. But it's not just in the cinema aspect that the changes have occurred, this was also a new time in the comics for the characters as well. In 2013, Deadpool got a new solo run where they really rebooted Deadpool's character. Now, most people probably are aware that Deadpool is paired up with Weasel and Blind Al as the for hire. Well, that's been changed. Now Deadpool's fully trying to be a full-fledged superhero. He's helped S.H.I.E.L.D. fight off evil undead presidents, got married, got new lore drop, among other wild adventures. Honestly, this 2013 to 2016 era is my favorite Deadpool comic run. It was a run that made him a lot more popular, get more involved in a lot more major Marvel events as well. Not only was this a very popular run, but it also allowed him to be part of major Marvel events that occurred over these years. Spider-Man also had a revamp at the end of the Superior Spider-Man. The whole Spider-Verse thing was going into motion. It was a phase where both characters were on the upturn, and this was before Parker gets pulled, and he meets a series of retcons that revert him back into poverty and misfortune and senseless beatings. While Deadpool, well, actually, Deadpool does pretty okay over the next few years. A few bumps here and there, but you know, it's kind of hard to complain when you're comparing yourself to the old Parker luck. Reviewing something like this has been a unique trip down memory lane for me, because within the same time this comic was being produced, Marvel launched both Secret Wars and all new All Different Marvel. New creations sort of acted as a relaunch for, well, so many characters, these two included, with both characters having their comic runs ending and relaunched into a new series with soft reboots. Why so makes sense if you realize the time frame that they're in. The Marvel Cinematic Universe was reaching its peak when it comes to the movies, and the comics were just trying to chase that high, adapting and changing characters to fit the cinematic versions, with mixed results. Superhero comics always were in a bit of a limbo, with time not really passing. That's why you have characters reacting to events that occurred decades ago as if they only happened no more than a few years before. And this time warp reset was really felt for these two characters as a good amount of change occurred, as both characters went through a good amount of development for this major reset. As I said before, Deadpool went through some major developments with his character, while Peter got replaced before retaking his mantle, before resetting back to square one. All this, however, became undone with Deadpool literally erasing his own memories of all the major events, and Peter losing all his money and becoming poor again. Except now he's 30 and Miles is still around, and also he's going to get cucked in the near future. It's a real shame of the reset was all new, all different Marvel, because you can kind of see a nice clean ending for both these characters with how their runs were going at the time. But, ah well. That's what you get when you come to read comics. Reviewing this issue still has been a fun retrospective and has inspired me enough that I'm probably going to loop back to the Deadpool run and probably into some more Spider stuff later. Plenty of wacky Spider-Man content for me to make fun of. But until then, I hope you enjoyed. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you did, and keep yourself notified for all my future uploads, as I hope to see you later. This is Captain Bill signing out. See ya.